You know what's truly remarkable about people with extremely high IQ? They don't walk around solving complex equations or quoting Shakespeare to prove their intelligence. We often picture someone with a very high IQ as obviously brilliant, constantly displaying their knowledge, speaking in technical jargon, or showing off their mental capabilities at every opportunity. But psychological research reveals something completely different. Many individuals with extremely high intelligence actually exhibit subtle behavioral patterns that most people would never associate with genius-level thinking. These aren't the dramatic displays of intellect we see in movies. In fact, cognitive neuroscientists often say that true intelligence is less about what impressive facts you can recall and more about how your brain fundamentally processes information, solves problems, and navigates complexity. And that unique cognitive processing reveals itself through certain everyday habits that rarely look like traditional intelligence. Here are 10 surprisingly common habits found in people with extremely high IQ. The first habit is embracing long periods of solitude without discomfort. Highly intelligent individuals aren't avoiding people because they dislike social interaction, but because their minds require substantial uninterrupted time to process complex thoughts and ideas. Solitude activates the brain's default mode network, particularly the medial prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for introspection, creative thinking, and connecting seemingly unrelated concepts. Studies from Cambridge University found that people with higher cognitive abilities report feeling more satisfied and mentally refreshed after extended periods alone compared to those with average intelligence. Their brains essentially use solitude as a laboratory for deep thinking. The second habit is asking questions about everything, especially things others take for granted. These aren't just philosophical questions, but practical, everyday curiosities. Why do people behave this specific way? What assumptions am I making? How could the system work differently? Their minds naturally function as pattern detection engines, constantly searching for deeper understanding. The third habit is engaging in detailed, self-directed conversations. Before you think this sounds strange, neuroscientists call this private speech, and it's actually a sophisticated cognitive tool. Research published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology shows that talking to yourself enhances focus, improves working memory, and helps organize complex thoughts into actionable plans. When you observe someone quietly, narrating their thinking process, you're witnessing an advanced cognitive control mechanism in action. The fourth habit is being completely comfortable saying, "I don't know," or "I'm not sure." People with very high intelligence have a deep understanding of how much complexity exists in any given topic. They recognize the limits of their knowledge and aren't threatened by uncertainty. This relates to what psychologists call the Dunning-Kruger effect, the tendency for people with limited knowledge to overestimate their competence. Highly intelligent individuals demonstrate the exact opposite pattern. They possess what researchers term intellectual humility, the awareness that true understanding requires acknowledging what you don't yet comprehend. The fifth habit is overthinking seemingly simple decisions. An analytical mind doesn't have an off switch. The same cognitive processes that excel at solving complex problems also analyze everyday choices in extraordinary detail. They might spend 10 minutes considering which route to take home, not from indecision, but because their brain is simultaneously running multiple mental models, calculating variables, and exploring possibilities. The sixth habit is possessing an unusually sophisticated sense of humor. Creating and understanding humor requires remarkable cognitive agility. The brain must recognize patterns, violate expectations, connect disparate ideas, and process multiple layers of meaning simultaneously. Research, published in Intelligence Journal, demonstrates a measurable correlation between higher IQ scores and advanced humor comprehension, particularly for wordplay, irony, and abstract comedy. The seventh habit is changing their opinions when presented with compelling evidence. Highly intelligent people treat their beliefs as flexible mental frameworks rather than fixed identities. When new information challenges their current understanding, they update their thinking. This cognitive flexibility represents one of the strongest markers of advanced intelligence, the ability to hold ideas lightly and modify them based on evidence. Now, pause and consider something important. How often do we completely misinterpret these behaviors in daily life? Someone who spends significant time alone gets labeled as antisocial or unfriendly. Someone who asks many questions appears skeptical or difficult to please. Someone who changes their mind seems uncertain or lacking conviction. But these are actually signs of a brain operating at a much more sophisticated level than most people recognize. The eighth habit is experiencing peak mental clarity during late night hours. Many high IQ individuals report their most productive thinking occurs between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. Some evolutionary psychologists suggest this reflects enhanced cognitive flexibility, the ability to adapt to non-conventional patterns. Night hours offer fewer distractions, allowing complex thoughts to develop without interruption. The ninth habit is observing social dynamics before participating. Instead of immediately jumping into conversations, highly intelligent people often watch interpersonal patterns first. They gather information, analyze emotional undercurrents, and understand group dynamics before responding. This reflects exceptionally strong pattern recognition applied to human behavior. They're essentially conducting real-time social research. And finally, the 10th habit is maintaining a persistent search for deeper meaning and purpose. High intelligence often comes with an acute awareness of complexity in relationships, society, and human nature. This can lead to profound questions about purpose, identity, and how we make sense of existence. It's not always dramatic existential questioning. Sometimes it's simply a quiet, ongoing curiosity about why people think the way they do, why systems work the way they work, and what it all means. This represents perhaps the most beautiful aspect of high intelligence, a mind that refuses to accept surface-level explanations and continues asking, "But why?" long after others have stopped wondering. And perhaps that's the most fascinating thing about exceptional intelligence. It's not really about memorizing information or solving mathematical equations quickly. At its essence, high intelligence is about maintaining an unquenchable curiosity about the world, combined with the cognitive tools to explore that curiosity deeply and systematically. A mind that continues questioning, analyzing, and searching for patterns in the beautiful, complex puzzle of human experience, even when it would be easier to simply accept simple answers to complicated questions.